Chapter 7 recounts the rise of the German Empire, the increasing power of the papacy that led to a crisis between church and state and their separation, the papal monarchy of Innocent III, the early Crusades, and finally political developments in England, France, the Holy Roman Empire, and medieval Russia. In 918, Henry I became the first non-Frankish king of Germany. After consolidating some duchies and repelling invasions of Hungarians and Danes, Henry left his son in a strong position. Otto I succeeded, invaded Italy, and proclaimed himself king. Otto controlled the church and enlisted it as part of his rebuilding program, making bishops and giving them land. Otto's successors, however, were so preoccupied with affairs in Italy that their German base began to deteriorate, and the church soon became more independent. A reform movement within the church started at Cluny, a monastery in France. The Cluny reforms were intent on creating a spiritual church and rejected the subservience of the clergy to royal authority. The movement grew to embrace almost 1,500 cloisters, and popes devoted to Cluny's reforms came to power during the reign of Henry IV. Pope Gregory VII prohibited lay investiture of the clergy and ruled that only popes could install bishops. This declaration was a direct threat to Henry's authority over his realm, and his protests led to his excommunication by Gregory. After Henry's subservience in the snow at the papal retreat at Canossa in 1077, he regrouped his forces and forced Gregory into exile, where he then died. The investiture controversy was finally settled in 1122 with a concordat at Worms, which amounted to a compromise. Henry V, however, renounced his power to invest bishops. The real winners in this struggle between church and state were the local princes. The early Crusades provide an index of popular piety and support for the Pope. The First Crusade, proclaimed by Pope Urban II in 1095, captured Jerusalem in 1099, but failed to maintain the territory in the face of rising Arab strength. The Second Crusade also failed to secure the area, as did the Third Crusade, which saw the divisive effect of the competing monarchs of Europe. Politically and religiously, these first crusades were a failure, but they were important in stimulating trade between the East and the West. The Fourth Crusade, in fact, revealed the interdependence of religion and business. Pope Innocent III made the papacy a great secular power. During his reign, the papacy became the efficient ecclesio-commercial complex that was later attacked by reformers. He used the Crusades to suppress dissent, especially against some of their rivals. Under Innocent's direction, the Fourth Lateran Church met in 1215 to establish hierarchical church discipline from pope to parish. Innocent also gave sanction to both the Franciscan and Dominican orders, which served to answer lay criticism of the worldliness of the papal monarchy. The chapter continues with political developments in England, emphasizing the invasion by William the Conqueror and his establishment of a strong monarchy. Henry II founded the Plantagenet dynasty, and his trials with the clergy, and especially Thomas Becket, are recounted. Henry's wife, Eleanor of Aquitaine, helped shape court culture and literature in France and England, and bore Henry, the future kings, Richard the Lion-Hearted and John I. Discontent increased among the English because of high taxation in support of unnecessary foreign crusades by both Richard and John. The last straw was the defeat by the French in 1214, which led to a revolt by the English barons, and finally the Magna Carta in 1215. This was a monumental document which secured the legitimate powers of the monarchy. It made the crown pretty mad, because then they would have to fall under the rule of law as well. The French faced the reverse problem. Feudal princes dominated France from the beginning of the Capetian dynasty until Philip II of Augustus. English expansion stirred France to unity. Some of the big accomplishments that we see were maintaining a unified kingdom, abolishing serfdom, improving the judicial system, and establishing a more equitable tax system were widely admired. Meanwhile, The Hohenstaufen dynasty in Germany was unable to establish a stable government. The text details the efforts of Frederick I of Barbarossa, Henry VI, and Frederick II in their attempts to gain control of Italy and the predictable clash with the papacy that ensued. Frederick II neglected affairs in Germany to such an extent that when he died in 1250, the German monarchy died with him. The chapter concludes with a study of Romanesque and Gothic art.